What happens when two dudes, one a retired Navy SEAL commander in Colorado Springs, and the other a hippie meditation teacher in New York City, get together to discuss living mindfully? That's a great question, because we don't know what will happen either. Raw, uncut, and unapologetic. Welcome to Men Talking Mindfulness with co-hosts Jon Macaskill and Will Schneider. Each week, we take an authentic dive into how mindfulness continually impacts our lives, deepens our relationships, and allows us to be emotionally alive. We filter all of our conversations through the man box, where we unpack how as men we are expected to act in society, how fighting the authentic human experience is exhausting and damaging, and how mindfulness can help. Now, on to the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Men Talking Mindfulness. This is Will Schneider. I'm taking over the introduction today because we have a very special show with a very special guest at a very special time in their lives. Our guest today is our one and only Jon Macaskill. In this episode, I'm going to interview Jon about what life is like 1 year, Jon, after transitioning from military service as a Navy SEAL and into civilian life. So please, and there's a little bonus here. So we're going to do a lot with this particular topic about transition and military transition. We're also going to have a special green room episode on August 12th at 12:30 p.m. Eastern time. So we're going to have a community discussion on this topic. So you can ask Jon questions about military transition directly. And also we have our live feed here today as well. So if you have some questions, I'll try to get to as many as I possibly can. I have a lot of questions. I'm curious about Jon and this 1 year anniversary of being out of the military and now being just a regular folk, just like me, Jon. Okay. Right. And, and just before we kick off the show, give us a little bit of give us some love on MTM. So please, if you can right now, take a screenshot and post it to your social and tag Men Talking Mindfulness, tag myself at Will Not Fear, tag Mindful Frogman over there, Jon Macaskill. And this helps us to grow our community and spread the loving message of mindfulness and everything about mindfulness and how it can help improve your life. Just announcement before we kick off and I introduce Jon, our guest today. We have James Nestor. He has changed we had a change in date with him. He's going to be on our show August 24th at 12:30 Eastern time. You can see Jon over there. He has our MTM shirts on. We're going to start selling them later this month or early September. So be on the lookout that you can get your own Men Talking Mindfulness swag and merch, which would be amazing. And look at the back, raw, uncut, and unapologetic on the back of the shirt. Nice, looking good, Jon. There's our model for today. So now, without further ado, let me introduce my brother from another mother, your Men Talking Mindfulness co-host, and our very special guest today, Jon Macaskill. How we doing, Jon?
Hey, brother. I'm doing so good. I'm excited to be here, excited to have this conversation. It has been a wild ride. So much has happened. So much has changed, not just for me personally, but just in the world as a whole. So my perspective has changed because the world has changed, and excited to share that and then see what pops up in the comments from fellow transitioned military or soon to be transitioned military. So yeah. Thanks for making this a topic. I'm excited, brother.
Yeah, it's I'd be remiss if we kind of didn't, Jon. Like we've had such a great response on our first military transition. Is like 1 year ago, almost today, that we did that episode, and I thought it'd be nice to have share where you are now, because it seems to be a big deal for a lot of people to leave the military after giving so much of their life to it. So. I'm sure we can help them, or you can help them, Jon, and our platform can help them maybe have an easier way out of the military into something that they love to do.
Right. So thanks for allowing the platform, man.
No, yeah. Well, you too, Jon. You are the co-host and you're the guest. I mean, you're so special today, Jon. I hope one of these days I get a chance, to be on the show.
For sure. We'll figure out next week, man. Maybe next week.
Yeah, right. So we'll kick off with our grounding practice. Yeah, we'll work with that. Any other kind of business or anything we need to discuss before we kind of kick into that, Jon?
No, I think you covered it all, man. Yeah, the shirt, James Nestor helping to promote the show by taking that screenshot and sharing it. and tagging us. And yeah, that's that, man. Let's get into the grounding practice. So I'll take it.
Take it away, Jon. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm actually sitting here in flip-flops, and I just kicked them off just so I can truly ground myself and get my feet on the ground and feel that ground underneath the soles of my feet. So as we always say, if you're watching or listening, we encourage you to close your eyes if you feel comfortable and it's safe to do so. Please don't do so while driving or around any place where it would be dangerous to do so. But we want to just help you to ground yourself today in the day or in the show as you listen to the show, so that you can be focused and quieten your mind, kind of tune out some of the noise that life throws at you, the chaos that comes at you. So here we are in Men Talking Mindfulness, grounding practice number 1. Bring your attention to your breath. Very intentionally focus that attention specifically on the physical sensation of breathing. We're not going to do any forced breathing just yet, but just notice the breathing in and breathing out. The expansion of your lungs as you breathe in, and the contracting of your lungs as you breathe out. Truly visualize the miracle that breathing is. Imagine all that air going down into your lungs, providing that life source for you, that oxygen. And then as you breathe out, breathing out the carbon dioxide. Millions and billions of particles of that air going all the way down into your lungs, expanding those lungs, getting pushed out into your blood, feeding your organs, and the reverse happening on the way out. If you notice your mind has wandered off, just gently bring it back. Don't judge yourself. Just gently bring it back. Back to the practice of paying attention to the breath. And now let's just close together by just doing one big cleansing breath. Begin by breathing out all your air. Bring your navel to your spine. Breathe deep in through your nose if it's comfortable. Inflating those lungs. Hold that. And relax, letting it out nice and slow. Slow, slow. And now just bring yourself back on your own time. Start to blink your eyes open or refocus your gaze and bring some movement back into your body. And here we are, short and sweet. And that grounding practice is actually tied to the book that we're going to be bringing James Nestor on to discuss here in a couple of weeks. The imagining those air particles going down into your lungs and the oxygen and carbon dioxide transfer. And there's a lot of conversation in the book about the importance of carbon dioxide. And we all think that it's a toxin and that we just need to get it out of our bodies, but it plays an important role in the oxygen and carbon dioxide transfer. So check it out. James Nestor coming on in a couple of weeks. And very excited to be talking about this topic today: military transition, mindfulness in military transition, and then my own personal experience. And it's funny, it worked out perfectly, Will. Like just yesterday and the day before, I was in a workshop. I was on the other side of that transition line, if you will.
Yeah.
Where 2 years ago, I was sitting in the seats being taught about transition and what transition is going to look like, and the various things that people were excited about and anxious about. And this time I was actually teaching, and we asked at the very beginning of the class, what are some things that people are excited about? What are some things that people are anxious about? And I'm sure throughout the show today, some of those things are going to pop up. But just real quick, one of them was the unknown. People are anxious about the unknown. You know, in the military, you wear a uniform every day. There's so much known. There's so much structure.
Right.
And then when you get out, you don't know what job you're going to do. You don't know what your day to day is going to look like. You don't even know what you're going to wear. I mean, down to the nitnoid details, you don't know what you're going to wear every day. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting conversation today. So over to you, bud.
Hey, yeah, I'm taking charge there, John. just put your commander thing, aside, and let me. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. So, well, let's just jump right in, John. And everybody out there, thanks so much. You can put your questions over on the side if you like. So tell us, John, 1 year later, like, what are you doing with your time now? Like, what's it been like?
Yeah, well, it's definitely different than what I had envisioned. I mean, last year at this time, right after I gotten out, I was working a regular job. I was working for a nonprofit, but I was working a regular job. Now I've since left that nonprofit and I'm working as an entrepreneur doing my own thing. And every day is different. Every day looks different, literally. And I'm loving it. It's not what I thought. Like, when I had envisioned the life of the entrepreneur and envisioned that uncertainty every day looking different, that actually initially produced some anxiety in me, much like I was just talking about that unknown.
Yeah.
And now I look forward to every day because I'm driving what that schedule looks like, right?
Yeah.
And I can say no. That's one thing that we
that's
too often in the military is being able to say no. If somebody calls me and they're like, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? Back in the military, I would have to say, Roger that, and take my marching orders and do it. Now I'm my own person and I can say, you know what? I don't have time for that, or it doesn't align with my ideals and values, or you know what? I just don't want to. So that's a great feeling, the ability to say no on the other side. But a lot has changed since the last time we spoke about this. The last time I just gotten out, I think I was down in Florida, and I was going through that kind of cocktail of emotions: happiness, sadness, anger, frustration, excitedness. And there's still a little bit of that. But since then, my family and I have moved out to Colorado. We were living in an RV this time last year. Now we've got a house, a small ranch. I've got an additional child in the mix. So a lot has happened, but loving life, and I'm blessed beyond measure, man.
Yeah, well, you have some horses and chickens as well, right? I mean, you're like
horses and chickens, and the chickens are finally producing eggs, man. Finally,
there you go.
The first three of which my baby girl, my 4-year-old girl, dropped and broke. So but yeah, moving on.
She's got to learn.
Learn for sure.
Yeah. Well, what is you mentioned in our and if everybody out there, if you want to go back and listen to the first episode, go right ahead. I listened to it earlier today just to kind of get more in touch with this topic. And one thing you mentioned back then, John, was not being attached, or not being a part of the SEAL teams anymore, and losing kind of that military tribe. So, what is that experience like for you right now?
That's a big one, right? I mean, it's like a family. And that was one of the concerns that was voiced in this military transition workshop that I was a part of is you do have, when you put that uniform on and you volunteer to put that uniform on, not everyone, but the large majority of those who serve have a heart of service. And when you have that heart of service, you bond with those others that have a heart of service. And then taking it further than that, taking it to the battlefield, where there is no place to forge a friendship, a brotherhood, a camaraderie like the battlefield. We all like to talk about fighting for freedom, fighting for America, but when you're actually on the battlefield, you're fighting for the guy and gal right next to you. You're not fighting for this grand image of freedom or unity or America. I mean, when you get back, that's what you've been doing. But at the granular level, what you're doing is fighting for yourself and for the person next to you. And that's going to create bonds like you haven't had and that I haven't found in other places.
Yeah.
So there is that feeling of loss of tribe. And what I've found, the only way to fill that void is by creating another tribe. It's
There you
not
go.
sure it's not going to be the same, but you can
Right.
have wonderful relationships. I mean, you and I feel like are brothers bonded in a much
Absolutely.
different way.
We're
And
fighting
I
chaos.
feel that's exactly right. Fighting chaos. And I feel that that brotherhood that we have it's certainly not the same as it would be with a battle buddy, but it is very strong. And knowing
Yeah.
that you can still form very strong bonds on the outside and still be part of tribes, and that's been hugely helpful in my mind in overcoming that anxiety of losing the tribe. So absolutely, I mean, I still miss it. I miss some of the work that we were doing. I miss the brothers, but I still reach out to them regularly or get texts from them or emails or whatever. And we still, it's like we haven't missed a beat. I
Yeah.
mean, today is August 6th, and 10 years ago, we actually had a really disastrous event.
Yeah.
Extortion 17 was a helicopter that was shot down. Another helicopter, yet another one that was shot down with a bunch of folks on it. SEALs, Air Force, combat controllers, and then the Army Night Stalkers who are piloting the thing. And we lost 31 heroes, 31 heroes that day. And
Yeah.
today is that anniversary, and we're able to come together over that anniversary, celebrate the guys' lives, not as much mourn them, but remember them and celebrate them.
Yeah.
So that getting together just over Zoom calls or text messages and raising a cup for those who have fallen, that's pretty powerful. And knowing that the tribe is still there, even though I'm on the other side of the
Yeah.
uniform line. Yeah.
Has it been, is it a challenge to, I mean, or are they receptive to, or all of them, I guess, or like some of them, you connecting with them, or is there a little jealousy that you're on the outside? I'm just curious, like, are you, what's the dynamic of the relationship now?
Yeah. I don't know that there's jealousy because at some point we're all going to be on the other side, but there's definitely questions. I mean, people ask me what I did for my transition. How did I plan it? What did I work towards? What industries did I look at? How did I overcome the kind of stigma of networking? And that was a big one, is understanding how important leaning on other people who have gone before you
Yeah.
is. But I don't know that there's a jealousy.
Yeah.
If there's a jealousy, it may be the other way around. When my guys are telling me, hey, I've got to go because I've got to go jump on this helicopter for training, or I see in the news that special operations are doing good things. There's a little pang of jealousy there. I
Yeah.
mean, I was sitting out July 4th weekend. I was out at a lake with my family, and this helicopter, military helicopter, flies over, and I can see the legs of the guys dangling out the side of the side door, and I was like, oh yeah, I know who those guys are, and I will never do that again. I will
Yeah.
never fly in a helicopter with my legs hanging out the side, going to assault a target, or even in training. And there was a lot of fun in that, a lot of camaraderie in that. So there's a little pang of jealousy, a little side of me that misses that.
Yeah.
But I'm also home with my family. I've got
And you can say
three,
no.
and I can say no. I mean, there's definitely right. It's that grass is greener on the other side, and it's always that perspective changes day to day, hour to hour, right? Like I'm so blessed that I'm able to be home with my family, and I know I'm never going to have to deploy into harm's way again, leaving my family behind. I
Yeah.
know that my family is going to be taken care of because I did retire, so I've got that coming in for me, and that's huge. And then I do have the freedom to, like you said, say no or be my own boss, or if I
Yeah.
want to, I can wake up at 5:30 and hit the gym, or I can wake up at 9. I mean, I don't wake up at 9, but I have that ability to. So
Right.
so
That's a good point.
I guess on that side, there's maybe if I tell people that I have my own freedom and I can say no, they may have a jealousy, but I haven't felt it yet.
Yeah. Has it been hard to create a new community and new friends, or, is there some apprehension there or something, you know?
Yeah. I don't know that it's been hard. It's been interesting, especially. I mean, one of the things that you have when you move to a new in the military, you instantly have a network you fall in on. Like you fall in on your platoon or your battalion, and you instantly start going to events with them. It's barbecues, it's morale, welfare, and recreation events, MWR events. You get together and you have a network in place. The other side of moving to a new place is a lot of the time you have a church. If you're spiritual or religious, you may have a church that you fall in on. Well, I moved out to Colorado Springs. I didn't know a whole lot of people out here. I didn't have my military unit to fall in on. I didn't, because of COVID, I didn't have a church to go to. So for the first 6 months that we were out here, it was a lot of family time, which is great. And then the virtual world, right? People through social media, through Zoom calls. That's how I mean, you and I haven't met in person, man. And,
still,
and yet I still consider you one of my best friends, right?
Your word, yeah. Thank you. Me too.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are in that spot right now. But military transition during health epidemic, pandemic was interesting, to say the least. I mean, the plan originally was to get in the RV and spend 6 months to a year bebopping around the country. And we spent 6 months in the RV, but of that 6 months, only about 2 of it was traveling, because when we would get to certain spots, they would be closed because of COVID. That's not so much about transition, but that's just about the year that I happened to retire was a bizarre year to get out. But since I mean, I know COVID with the Delta variant is back up on the rise, but we've with the vaccines and people starting to get to some semblance of normalcy again, I've been able to meet people here who were either in the military or are connected with some veteran network, or quite honestly have nothing to do with it, and that's refreshing in and of itself. But I think where you start to get uncomfortable making friends is if you continue to wear this. I mean, not literally, but inside you wear this. Hey, I'm military. You weren't. We can't bond. Well, you got to drop that. We're all human beings, and once you realize that we're all human beings, and we've all got our own very valuable experiences, then you can start to make friends in and out of uniform. Those who have served before and those who haven't, and that's what you got to put behind you. Yeah.
Nice. One thing after listening to that first episode we did a year ago, what really kind of struck me was the fact that you had just actually that night before or the day before we had that live stream a year ago, you had just watched, I forget the Boston bomber movie. Patriots, something like that, right? And you had mentioned because of that you no longer have an enemy to fight. Which I thought was like, wow, like you were like 24 years in the military, always being told what to do, all this structure, always like kind of outward facing a lot of ways, in a sense of like protect your brother and also like protect yourself against the enemy. And here you are, a civilian a year later, and you don't have to go to battle anymore. Have those feelings been something have they subsided, or is there more anxiety around that? Like, where are you in that ballpark?
Yeah. Yeah. I'll be honest, man. A lot of my perspective has changed in the last year, and I may receive some blowback for this.
Go for it, brother. Raw and uncut. Unapologetic.
Raw and uncut. Yeah, that's right. But I think that there was more of a perceived enemy. I think again, wow. We're all human beings, and I don't want to sound too hippy dippy, but I think that but if I take a step back and I say, okay, what did I do when I served? Most of my time was in the Middle East. Okay, and I do believe that what we did helped to prevent the enemy from coming to our shores again in the way that they did, like on 9/11, right? But I also think that in some ways we may have created more enemies by being there in country. I remember being on target and taking these men from Target, these possible quote unquote bad guys from Target. They were still alive. They were not dead. We would take them off Target because they were suspected bad guys, and their children were there.
Ugh.
Their wives were there, and they were crying. And in my mind at that point, I was just like, hey, whatever, this guy's a bad guy. We're taking him to be questioned and find out more about more bad guys. Again, quote unquote bad guys. Now looking back on it as a father and imagining another country's military force landing a helicopter in my yard, coming and taking me from my family. Again, I think a lot of the work that we did was great work. I do. And I still fully believe in it. But I also believe that at times we may have caused more enemies, because I know that if I'd been a child and I saw this, what I perceived to be an invading force. I'm not saying that we were. I know we were a defending force, but what I perceived to be an invading force coming and taking my father away, or if I was a wife coming and taking my husband away, that would turn me into a pretty jaded person. Yeah. So I say all that to say, a year ago, my perspective was I was missing an enemy to fight. Now I think with a lot of time to actually really think about what it was we did, I think that the perspective has shifted quite a bit to one of, I think we did great work, but I think we may have done some harm as well. And now I feel that I can try to heal that harm, maybe not directly, but just in humanity as a whole, in doing some good and doing what we're doing, the kind of work that we're doing with teaching meditation and mindfulness. That's a good piece of what I'm feeling today.
Well, it also sounds like you developed a stronger sense of compassion. You know, I guess not being around that kind of hive mentality of the military in the sense of like enemy, you know, whereas like now it's like, you know, that's been taken away. The tribe is not as attached. And here you are a year later. I mean, speaking beautifully about, you know, really looking out for other people, regardless of who they are, where they are from, you know, what they look like. And that's really that's very heartening for me to hear, you know, just as another fellow human being. So really, thanks so much for sharing that. Yeah.
That's where mindfulness, I think, comes so much into play, right? And we've talked about this on the show before, about developing compassion and empathy for your fellow human beings. When you really take a step back and you look at, you know, that person was born on that side of the world and you were born on this side of the world. You've been given these opportunities and these experiences. They've been given these opportunities and those experiences. Those opportunities and experiences help to form our ideals and values. And understanding that, I think, is a huge piece in mindfulness. And that's for people across the globe, or that's for people in the next neighborhood. That's for people of different ethnicities and races and genders. Understanding that our experiences and opportunities do help to shape us. I think there is definitely a side of nurture and nature, but you can't argue with the nurture piece. But that the mindfulness does help to develop that compassion for others, but it also, quite honestly, helps to develop that compassion for yourself. And that's so important in going through the military transition is you start to have a little bit of anxiety about the unknown, and you start to beat yourself up. You're like, well, why am I quote unquote scared of the unknown? Well, because it is unknown. And when you start to have some compassion for yourself, you start to realize it's okay to feel that way. It is okay to feel that way. And many other people do. And once you start to have that compassion, then you can share that with others. You can be vulnerable to share that with others. And then that's where a new tribe can even develop among other transitioning service members or recently transitioned service members. And you can share your stories and grow from it. So I may have gotten way off track there, man, but
no, it's all, I mean, I'm like, I think it really is a very complete answer, John. Thank you. I mean, it shows a lot of the humanity that even more of the humanity you gain being outside the military. And I mean, that's just kind of like, and it kind of takes me to my next question is like, what have you learned about yourself a year later? Like here you are 1 year out, and what are some things that you've learned about Jon Macaskill and who he is?
I think some of
I mean,
it
it's
plays
like
into that
I say that,
question.
I'm sorry to cut you off. It's like, you've been I think it's important to note that you joined the military when you're like 18 or 19, right?
Yeah, 19.
Yeah, 19. And here you are, I guess you got out when you're 43 or 44. I mean, that's like, 24 years of really your adult life. I mean, you're 19, I'm still like, I was still a kid, still like a dumb kid in some ways, and here you are like a man with a family, 24 years later, and now a year out. So, what are some of those things you're learning by yourself?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you kind of reframed it and added that piece to it, because thinking about the 19-year-old kid that enlisted in the Navy in 1996.
Wow. Yeah.
I was young and full of piss and vinegar, right? And
like we all are at 19.
Right. Yeah. Right. And I did, in my mind, wanted to defend freedom, serve my country. And that part, I think, stayed with me all the way through. But what defending freedom and serving my country looked like, I think, did change throughout my time. I wanted to, day one, I wanted to kick down doors and drop bombs on, again, quote unquote, bad guys. As I feel I gained experience, gained wisdom, gained perspective, a grander perspective of the world, rather than just this very narrow perspective that I had as a 19-year-old. That changed quite a bit. And in all honesty, I did too. I changed. My priorities shifted in my young years. My number one priority was military, right? And it was probably very high all the way through my service. But as even when I was married, my first marriage, number one priority was the military. And then somewhere below that was my family, which sometimes you need to make military priority in order to serve properly. But as I got older, I saw that I needed to make my family priority, and that's a huge shift for me. My family is a priority. I still feel God is my number one priority, and I don't want to make this religious, but this is my own personal perspective.
Yeah,
God is my number one priority, family, and then below that, the other pieces fall out. But that all shifted around quite a bit. And then just in the last year, I think I was also putting myself pretty high up there, as far as, okay, well, I've got to advance my career. I've got to achieve this milestone in the military in order to advance myself, in order to achieve the next rank. When I got out, I realized, you know what? I don't have to do that now. I can put my family first. I can turn my phone off and disappear for a weekend and make my family priorities. And I think that took a few months. Even after I retired and hung up the uniform, that took a few months. But now I feel that I'm able to put them right there at the top. And if anything else is interfering with that, then I chop it out of my life, or I try to anyway.
So that's one of the big new understandings, is just like reprioritizing your life, I guess, right? And does that come from also like a feeling place, as far as like, because you're not in that intense, committed, and stringent environment, that I guess you're just able to open up to those possibilities or something. I'm just curious.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit of both, but I think the tools that I have learned to use, specifically meditation and mindfulness, that has opened up my mind, opened up my heart to the other experiences in the world, and that's allowed me to, again, change that perspective. So I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah. Well, what's been, what are some of the difficulties, the challenges that you've had, getting, over this year of reprioritizing and feeling your life in a new way, and being a civilian,
Yeah. I think certainly that kind of missing the tribe. I think that took a second. But I also believe there was guilt there. And I think overcoming that sense of guilt has been a big challenge for me. And what I mean by guilt, I mean in leaving my brothers and sisters behind in this combat service to continue to fight the good fight. And here I am out here living on my ranch in Colorado, waking up on my own time, saying no to a lot of things. If I want to, if I want to, I go get myself a coffee at Starbucks, and I'm living quite honestly a privileged life, and I acknowledge that. I fully realize that.
Yeah, but you also built that, John. You've capitalized on the privilege, but you've also, you put yourself here. So, kudos to you. Just looking out for your brother.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that, and it is things like that help to kind of overcome the guilt. Is knowing that I did my part, right? I played my part in the military and built this life of mine, but it's still there's still a feeling as though you're leaving your brothers and sisters behind in that tribe. Excuse me, in that tribe. And then how I've overcome it is giving back. Like going to this transition workshop that I went to yesterday and helping those who are soon to be transitioning, or helping those who are soon entering the military, telling them what to expect. I get phone calls and requests all the time to speak to those who are entering the Navy or entering the military, and they want to be part of special operations. They want to know what to expect. By giving back, that's helped me the most to overcome that guilt, is that I feel that I'm still serving, even though I may not be wearing the uniform. I still am serving my fellow brothers and sisters in that capacity.
What are some of those answers to those questions about people that you I know it's a transition topic, but people that want to enter, like, what do you tell somebody that wants to go into special operations? Like, what are some of the the like pillars of, like, hey, like, look at these things or something like that?
Yeah. Well, I always ask them initially, I'm like, okay, so what's your goal? What's your goal with special operations? And what I hear from those specifically who want to go into the Navy SEALs, well, I'll hear two things. One, somebody will say, well, I want to go to SEAL training. Okay, well, if that's your goal, then you're doing things wrong. And maybe you want to look at something else. If your goal is to truly serve in special operations and be a SEAL and serve beside some of the best that are out there, you're going to need that. In order to make it through training, that's the goal you need to have. In order to get to training and then get through it, that's the goal you need to have. If you just have, I want to go to SEAL training so that you can tell your buddies or your girlfriend that you went to SEAL training, a lot of the time that's not going to get you through. And then you end up just being another person who fell by the wayside. Now, I will also say that those who go and try and don't get through training, there's nothing wrong with those people. I still feel they're patriots. I still think they're incredible people. I know tons of great people who have gone to special operations training and not made it through, and then gone on to serve society, serve in the military as incredibly successful people. And it goes back to the Teddy Roosevelt man in the arena, right? You would never know failure if you hadn't tried, and it's better to know failure than to have never tried. So I applaud those who go out to special operations training and don't make it. But what I do tell people is, some kids, they're 19 years old and they're basically me 25 years ago, and they're telling me, oh yeah, this is the workout that I do. I hit the pool every day. I do this kind of running and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, well, that's well and good. But what are you doing to prepare your mind? What are you doing to prepare your mind for the military or special operations? What are you doing to toughen yourself up mentally? Do you know what this particular branch, be it Navy, Army, Air Force, Marine Corps, Space Force, do you know what it is they do? And if they're like, well, no, I don't really know. I just like their uniform. Or sometimes you hear some wazoo stuff. But I tell them, well, educate yourself on that branch, educate yourself on that specific special operations element.
Yeah.
And then once you know more about it, let's talk again. So, I always want people to toughen themselves up mentally and then educate themselves. That's what I always come back with.
Yeah. Well, what are some of the, you talk about that mental toughness. What is some of that mental toughness that you've seen carry into this, your civilian life now, or there's certain mantras that you might repeat to yourself when things get challenging or things aren't going the way that you think they should be or something like that?
Yeah, I don't necessarily have a mantra, but I do quite often look back on what I've done in the past, both in and out of the military. And I know I've overcome some obstacles. And we each have different obstacles. We each have different challenges. So I talked about being privileged before, but I've got my own demons and my own obstacles that I've overcome. I've overcome, just the physical and mental training for the SEALs. And I look back on that. And when I face a challenge with my family, when I face a challenge with work, I say, you know what? I have overcome my absolute worst day in my life. Whatever that worst day may be, I got through it and I'm here. So whatever life has to throw at me, I can overcome that too. I can get past that and grow from it. So I guess if you wanted to call it a mantra or turn it into a mantra
or
before
affirmation or something.
I think what I would say, sorry, I keep moving around because I'm on this incredibly uncomfortable stool in my office. But anyhow, I say that as I'm talking about mental toughness.
Get it together, John. Come on.
Yeah.
Come
right.
on.
So but I think if I were to turn it into a mantra, it would be something to the effect of, I have overcome and I can overcome. So using what you have done in the past to make sure that you can overcome in the future. So I think I'm going to coin that. I have overcome and I can overcome.
There you go. Yeah, maybe write that in our little chat here. So,
I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it.
No, but thank you. That's, I have overcome and I will overcome. And that's great, especially in those dark days, like that you still see the light and you pull yourself out. What would you say to potential transitioning veterans that are a year or two, or maybe only like 6 months away from becoming a civilian? What would you say to them?
I'd say a lot. First off, I would say the time in between when you decide to get out and when you do get out, it goes really fast. I decided to get out about 2 years prior to actually jumping off that exit ramp. And that 2 years flew by. So use the time wisely because it does go by really fast. The other side is a lot of the time military members, they get very comfortable doing what they did in the military and they want to look for a job that matches that on the outside. So maybe they were a logistician or administrative or special operations in the military. Now they're looking to do something in the logistic world, the administrative world, or maybe a defense contractor on the outside. If that's what you really want to do, more power to you. That's great. I love that your military training and your military job translated very well to a job on the outside. But make sure it's truly what you want to do and not just the easy button.
Right.
It's very easy.
Right.
Yeah, or we're chasing the money, right?
Yeah. You mentioned that in the earlier episode, just like, guys, like living from a place of passion, it sounds like is a super key to a successful transition.
Right. Yeah, I think, I don't know if I want to call it passion because I think we all have a whole lot of different passions, but I think it's doing some deep introspective work and finding out who you are without that uniform on. So you may be a logistician in that uniform, but maybe you want to go work with a professional sports team and do something for them. Or maybe you want to go into personal finance and help others figure out their finances or something. But I'll tell you what we kind of teach in that transition workshop is Simon Sinek's Find Your Why. Once you're able to identify your why, that plays big time into what it is you can do and maybe want to do on the outside. So I guess the other piece that I'll tell people, aside from the time goes really fast, is find your why, figure out who you are outside of uniform, without that uniform on, before ever actually hanging up that uniform. Figure that out, because that's going to set you up to do what you want to do on the outside.
Well, I guess I may have misspoke a little bit as far as using the word passion, where probably would be better to say be in service. And that's kind of like, I think that's really the key. It's like, how can you, with the skills you have and the passion you have, how can you turn that into a service to help other people? Like kind of, rising tide lifts all boats. How can you lift more boats up?
Sure.
Right. With the energy and the knowledge and the wisdom that you have from the skills that you have. But also, John, what helped you, or what you mentioned in that first transition episode, was the book Design Your Life. Which was like a 13-week course. And I think Linda's going to pop it into the feed here. And tell us, and I think that's, I mentioned that because that's something it sounds like it's helped you tremendously, right? Realize, because I remember in that first episode, you were saying, it's like, I just don't want to work for money. I want to do something that's more meaningful. And really, like, instead of just digging in haphazardly and but really doing some work. This is like, I think Design Your Life was, you want to take us through that? Was like 13 weeks or something?
Yeah, well, I forget how long it was. It's a book and a workbook. And as a matter of fact, I don't know if you looked, but I was scrolling through my phone here. I just joined the course. There's actually a course that's taught by the authors. But Designing Your Life is basically, it forces you to do, again, some of that deep introspective work without calling it meditation or mindfulness. But you do, I want to say it was 3 or 4 weeks walking around with this book, literally writing everything that I did in it. So, I would write down, hey, I just had a meeting with these people. I went for a run. I did a phone call. I worked on a PowerPoint, whatever. And I did that for 3 or 4 weeks. And after each event, you write, okay, that event, that task, whatever, it gave me energy or took energy away from me. And then at the end of that 3 or 4 weeks, you look back and you look at what allowed you to get into that state of flow, or what gave you energy, or what took energy away from you. And you want to set yourself up to more regularly get into that state of flow. Do events that gave you energy. Do tasks that gave you energy. And then after you do that, you do some mind mapping. Quite literally, you draw, like in the center of a page, you write down what it is that excites you in life, just like 1 or 2 words. And then outside of that circle, you write 5 or 6 other words that are related to that word. And then eventually you expand until you fill up the whole page, and you have this outer ring of circles that are important to you. And that helped me to identify that I wanted to work with people. I wanted to help people. I wanted to lead people, and I wanted to get them to lead and live their most fulfilling lives. And I would never have known that if I hadn't done the Designing Your Life workbook or some of these other transition workshops that I did. I did the Honor Foundation and the Commit Foundation and some other, Tuck Next Step was a program that I went to up at Dartmouth Business School. And if I hadn't done those things, I never would have known, hey, you know what? I don't want to go into this industry or this job, even though I was looking at them pretty hard. I want to be I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to go out and serve people as an entrepreneur. So Designing Your Life, I can't recommend that book, the workbook, and now even the class enough. And then also those other transition workshops that I mentioned, the Honor Foundation, Commit Foundation, and Tuck Next Step, phenomenal programs. Yeah, and I'll collect my money later, guys. obviously not. I'm not officially associated with any of them, but I do fully believe in what they do.
But they sound very helpful. And the takeaway I'm getting from that, John, is, once you're getting out, don't waste your time, right? Like, just don't waste your time. Put in the work, to really discover what you want to do, where you want to go, like the person you want to be, maybe where you want to live. So it's going to definitely take some homework and take some time. Also it sounds like don't be afraid to ask for help. It sounds like the military gives a lot of help around transition. Because with that, with that much help, John, it sounds like it must have came from a place of a need, veterans were having a lot of time or a lot of difficulty getting out of the military. And it sounds like they really have woken up to that challenge. And, here they are saying, okay, look, we have transition courses. We have, guys like you coming in, like just like 2 days ago, talking with them about transition. So it definitely, like, the tools are out there, it sounds like, within the military. And there's definitely, no shortage of find yourself kind of books out there, on the bookshelf. So you do the work, right?
Right. Yeah. A lot of the onus is on you.
There you go.
The military internal to the military has what's called the Transition Assistance Program, which is quite honestly, it needs an overhaul. The Transition Assistance Program is anywhere between 3 and 5 days, and they teach you how to interview. They teach you what you should wear to an interview. They teach you how to write a resume. All that's important. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But they basic.
Don't do. Oh yeah.
It's very basic. They don't do some of that deep work. They don't address the guilt that you may feel. They don't address the loss of tribe, loss of purpose, loss of identity. These other programs are actually outside of the military. They're nonprofits, most of them that do this work. And there's no shortage of them. But you personally need to do the work to find those programs that work for you. And then once you're in the program, trust the process, go through the process, work through it, find your why, do your homework, pursue your purpose. It depends on, which program you're going through, but you find yourself in going through that work. And that's important to have found yourself again, what and who you are out of uniform before you ever hang up the uniform. That's probably another phrase I'm going to coin, man, right there. Trademark.
There you go. Trademark it, Jon. We'll put it on our next t-shirt or something like that.
Yeah.
All right. So last question. So you talked about identity, who is Jon Macaskill today, 1 year out of the military?
Whew. A year ago, or maybe just over a year ago, if you'd asked me who I was, I would have said the standard military response. I'm a Navy SEAL commander. And
yes, sir.
And then I think what I would say today is I'm a husband, I'm a father, and that I'm a farmer. I don't know that I'm a great farmer, but I have a small ranch, and then the Navy SEAL commander is a part of who I am. It's just a small part, and the husband and father and leader in my community, I think those are becoming bigger parts of the pie, and that's who I am today. And that's important to know that about yourself, is that sure, the military, your military service is part of who you are. Don't negate that. I will never say I never served in the military. I will never say that I wasn't a SEAL. It's a part of who I am. It's just as though, if I was a doctor, MD or PhD or dentist or whatever, I'm still going to say that that's a part of who I am, but there's so much more. And that's the thing for transitioning service members. There is so much more to you than you even realize. And hopefully you're able to find those other parts of you and grow in those other aspects, because now is the opportunity to do that. So that's who I am today.
Yeah, thanks, Jon. And you're a co-host of our show as well. That's correct.
Of course, I'm a co-host of Men Talking Mindfulness. How could I forget?
All good, dude. All good. I know. I feel sad now, Jon, that you didn't mention it.
I love it.
Well, that's wonderful, Jon. And I was going to say something else and I forgot but why don't we take this time? We'll close. And if there's anything else that you want to say in closing or something like that, I think thank you for sharing all this, Jon. And I say that on behalf of not just myself, but our audience, and being vulnerable as well. And maybe not speaking the way or saying things about the military that might be in favor of everybody. So thanks for being so candid as well.
My pleasure, man. Thanks for having me as a guest on your show. It's on
our show, Jon. We're guests on our own show.
But I'll just for those who may not have listened to the show before or not know me, and you may have either just recently transitioned from the military or you're soon to be transitioning from the military, and you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm on social media. I'm on LinkedIn. Jon Macaskill, JonMacaskill. That's where I spend most of my work, or you can email me directly at john@MacaskillConsulting.com or john@mentalkingmindfulness.com. Either way. So here I am.
Awesome. Well, great. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll take us away in our little grounding practice.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Well, just like, hey, before we close, hey, take that screenshot if you haven't yet and post it on your social and tag at Men Talking Mindfulness and at Mindful Frogman and Will Not Fear, please, just to help us grow this community, because we really want to just serve as many people as we can and the gifts of mindfulness. So thank you for being here today with our audience. And we'll just close with a very simple grounding practice, just so we can continually practice and understand how simple it is to calm ourselves down and ground ourselves and be more present in our lives for ourselves and other people. So whatever you are, whatever you're doing, just stop. If you're driving in a car, just keep with the breath. It's all good. If you can close your eyes and take a comfortable seat and create a nice little long spine, then go ahead and do that. Or if you're somewhere else walking around, maybe just stop and gaze at the horizon or something beautiful that's in front of you. And we'll just exhale the breath out the mouth, nice and simply. Really drop through that exhale, like down into your sit bones or down into your feet, right? And then greet that with a nice smooth inhale through the nose. And exhale out your mouth. I'll get a couple more breaths in through the nose. Out through the nose. A few more in through the nose. Out through the nose. Now, the last 4 rounds, we're going to inhale for 3 seconds and exhale very slowly all the way for a long count of 6. We're going to do this for a few rounds just to change the dynamics. We're going to have James come on August 24th to talk about carbon dioxide and how that kind of balances everything out, how it makes us feel. So this is a way to bring more carbon dioxide into our body by breathing slower on the exhalation. So exhale out to begin. And take a big inhale through the nose for 3, 2, 1, and exhale completely all the way out for a slow count of 6, 5, 4, through the nose, 2, 1. Inhale again, 3, 2, 1. Exhale slowly, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Again, in for 3. Out, 6. Two more. In for 3. Out completely for 6. When I say completely, try to pull your diaphragm up below your rib cage so you feel like no breath in your body. And in for 3 again. Out for 6. Last one. In for 3. Out for 6. Good. Normal breath. Take a moment. Feel how you're feeling. Just take notice. Great. When you're ready, open your eyes. And once again, thank you, Jon. Thank you, audience. It's been a wonderful opportunity to talk with you, Jon, about your transition and your feelings and where you are today. And thank you so much for sharing all of that. And that's going to be our show today, everybody. Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you, brother. Always a pleasure. And thank you for walking me through that. That last year has been a wild ride. And I appreciate your again, bringing this topic up, because it is so important for so many who are going through transition or have recently transitioned themselves. So thanks, brother, and have a great weekend.
Thank you, Jon. Peace.
Thanks for joining Will and Jon on Men Talking Mindfulness. If you enjoyed the show, please like and share it with your friends and family, and please, we would appreciate a review too. Until next time, this has been Men Talking Mindfulness. Thanks for showing up.